My name is Joseph Blackman, and I climb Mount Kilimanjaro by using a Sherpa. So I am the Sherpa to Public Works in regards to training.
Oh, that was a brilliant lead in. Thank you for that. So, just so everybody knows, Joseph, you were actually the first guest I've had on here that I don't know personally. So, this is a completely new venture for me as well. So, I'm very excited. Once again, thank you for going out on a limb and even, putting in the form and reaching out to me through LinkedIn. So, I appreciate that.
For
Um,
sure, for sure.
and on the form, which anybody who hasn't seen it, it has a little blurb area and it says, what are some interesting things you're into, hobbies, whatever. And you wrote, I think 5 things or 4 things that I want to cover all 4 of those because I think they were fascinating. I don't know what order they go in your life, so I'm just going to pick kind of the ones I think that were on the form and we'll talk about them. Right before we got on here, we were talking a little EPL because I'm obviously wearing my Arsenal jersey. And you said you recently just got into some European. And I love how you air quoted football because one of your interesting
I
facts
want to
is
say football and not soccer because they all get pissed off you say soccer. So I try to say football, even though I played football in college and the real, I would say the real football, but American football.
Careful with that reel. Careful with that reel. Yeah. So where in college did you play?
South Dakota State University, beautiful, sunny, flat, lovely Brookings, South Dakota.
Get out. That's the second time in my short podcasting career that the Dakotas have come up.
Those flyover states, man. You can't get away from them.
Yeah, so what's going on in South Dakota? Why there?
Whew, a whole bunch of nothing. I mean, it was tough because having played football in high school and you're talking to all these big Division I colleges, the schools that you see on TV, having conversations and letters and meetings and all that. But by the time the letter of intent day came, or the national signing day came around, South Dakota State was the only the only offer on my table. So my dad and I, we said, "Hey, let's take what's on the table and let's roll." So I did it, man.
What's their mascot?
The Jackrabbits.
Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah, I know. It's
what position did you play?
I played cornerback and safety, so defensive back.
Okay. And so obviously you had to be a pretty big deal in high school. Where did you play in high school?
So I played at Pittsburgh High School in Pittsburgh, California. I would say a lot of people know about Pittsburgh High School because they crank out a lot of, decent players that made it to the NFL. Trying to figure out any names that recently,
I probably wouldn't know,
Pittsburgh,
but maybe
California. Yeah. I was top 20th fastest in the state in the 100-meter dash. So I was fast, which helped out with football. And then, to be honest, I didn't really get good at football until my junior year. My sophomore year, I was okay at playing running back, but junior year is when I kind of came out my shell. I started at corner and then started at corner my senior year. And that was kind of it's funny. I had baby fat all the way up until I was 15 years old. And I was slow and I was awkward. And I couldn't really figure out defensive fits and stuff like that. But I would say something between freshman year, sophomore year, it clicked for me. I think it was just track and kind of just actually taking life seriously. And then it clicked. And then, the attention started coming because we had a good team and they saw my skill set and that was it.
Wow, that's crazy. So in 2 years, you put enough, I guess, tape or whatever that is experience together for schools to start come sniffing around. That's incredible.
Yeah, I started this YouTube channel. It's called 4-Year Athlete, and I wanted to be able to give back to guys who were just average. I wouldn't say average, but just above average in football. They weren't lights out players, 5-star recruits and all that, but they could still get a scholarship. You get what I'm saying? I wasn't good enough to play cornerback at USC or Michigan, but I went to South Dakota State and got a free education. And I wanted to be able to tell kids hey, there's certain things you can do to make yourself marketable, even if you're not the best athlete or the best player on the field or even in your graduating class. So yeah, just being able to those 2 years and being likable, coachable, and making sure the coaches speak highly of you. And then of course, doing a couple things on the field that, keep you on the field and keep you in the game and make sure the film looks good. That stuff can get you to college, man. You can save money on your education.
Likable and coachable. How much do you apply that to your job now?
It's funny. I kind of humble brag, and my wife hates it. It makes me the most punchable person on the planet. But always because in the 8th grade, I was voted the most friendliest, right? So the friendliest,
Sure.
the yearbook, right? You get voted most friendliest. And you know what? Like it kind of stuck with me. And I realized that, like you can dissolve or, you know, you can get out a lot of issues or into a lot of issues just by the way you are, the type of person you are, and how you talk to people to where they're at, and how you kind of handle situations. I mean, I was taught at a young age, like the person who had to throw their fists couldn't articulate it with their mouth. You get what I'm saying? Like,
Woo!
I mean,
Yeah.
and not to take the podcast in a different direction, but like,
No, you're good.
they like men who beat their wives can't get across their point in any other way. Like
Mm,
you got to be savvy enough to be able to get across to another human, like, hey, I want to diffuse this situation, or I want this to happen without having to use your body. And once you can figure that out, just as orating it, like I think it makes you more of a powerful person. And that's where I kind of harness it and say, you know what, I'm going to lean into myself being friendly. And it's helped me out with it, getting recruited for college, sales, after college, and all the jobs that I've had, and like all the public speaking and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, I wouldn't say it's a superpower, but it's one of those things that I noticed at a young age that, everybody else noticed. I said, well, let me just double down on it.
mm. Were either or both of your parents very good speakers as well?
My parents, my dad's a pastor, so
Okay.
of course, he can communicate,
Of course.
and I would say that helps out. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, when you see your dad on stage, like pretty much living his dream every Sunday, like started a church
Mm,
from nothing in his mom's bedroom, and like think of a church, like there's no product you sell, there's no like something you sell that people go, oh, that's really good, I want to come back and taste that, or I like the product and how it helped my life. Like no, it's literally you get on stage and you add value to people's lives through speaking. Of course you're using the
yeah.
Bible and scripture and all that, but you're speaking the word. And once you can see, if you think about all the greats throughout history, like Martin Luther King, Barack Obama, Adolf Hitler, like these are people that like changed the culture of civilization. And
Mm,
what do they do? Like I never seen Hitler pick up anything. I never seen Martin Luther King like use force on anybody or anything. So these people changed the complexion of society just with their mouth, just with the spoken word. So yeah, seeing my dad do that, it kind of it's what if your parents own a donut shop, you're probably going to be good at making donuts. You get what I'm saying?
mhm,
It,
mhm,
immersion, osmosis.
mm. What during that collegiate time, what was the most memorable thing you can remember thinking back to that during that time period? Difficult time, positive time, what jumps out at you when you're thinking of that time period?
Um, one thing that when you started the question, it kind of took me back to it because being from Pittsburgh, California, and going to Brookings, South Dakota, two completely different culture. Yeah, right. You're already laughing. Yeah, it's like going from the I wouldn't say the hood, but a inner city type area to
Yeah.
South Dakota, like literally Little House on the Prairie, like it was like shot right down the road from my school, and and you would think like, okay, at the time I had the dreads, I had the gold teeth, I had the whole look, and you would think like, oh, how many instances of racism did I encounter? And there were a
Mm,
couple that like that were blatant racism, or just guys, young guys being idiots, like under the influence of alcohol. Like I kind of give you the pass for that. But I'll say one of the older guys on my team, and I asked him like, how do you guys deal with this stuff? Like it's never really blatant racism, it's more so just ignorance. Like they always thought like I could dance, or they thought I could rap, or some people might have thought like, I like this movie because it's Remember the Titans. Like everybody loved Remember the Titans because it's like black people and white people getting together, yeah. And like I thought the movie was all right, but it's kind of cheesy. Like, let's be honest,
sure.
it's a Disney movie. Like, let's let's stop the cap. But he told me, he's like, hey man, like you can't beat up everybody. And what he was trying to say is that like there's going to be so many situations where people are going to be ignorant or malicious, but you can't take it to the chin of where like I got to handle every situation its own way. He
Mm,
pretty much said just keep your head up, keep focusing on what you're doing. And there are always going to be detractors to your plan, there's always going to be people trying to get in your way, but I've never been the guy to internalize it and let it ruin my day or my plans. So that was one instance where I remember him telling me that he was like, "Man, you can't beat up everybody," and I was like, "That's actually pretty smart because you
Wow.
don't like." I've met those guys, the angry black men, and they hate the world and they think everybody's out to get them, and oh, the white man this,
Hmm.
white man that, and it's like, dude, nobody's stopping you, bro. Like, the reason why you can't get a car is because your credit shot. Like, you did that, like. So yeah, and trust me, we put ourselves in plenty of these situations, and it's nobody. I don't want to say it's nobody, but it's 2024. Like, we had a black president. Like, let's go. Let's
Hmm.
get this money.
That's interesting that you took that exact, that really changed, it must have changed a mindset. It was almost like a
Mm,
pivot in your life at that point in time, and you needed that to really kind of,
sure.
you know, propel yourself into whether it be a new direction or just a new thought process. That's really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. What was the I was also a college athlete, but I was Division
What'd you
three,
play?
so I was a soccer player, of course.
Okay. Okay. Where at? What
and but
school?
King's College in Wilkes-Barre, so it was a small
Okay.
Catholic school,
Okay.
and it was like so important to me back then. And I look back and I'm like, man, like maybe you should have made different. Like I went to school for biology. I'm doing nothing with that now, and it's so funny to
Same
look.
here.
Yeah, I look back and I'm like, I learned how to study. That's what I really learned is work ethic. But being a college
Yeah.
athlete is difficult. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of things that go with that. To me, I think a lot of it was time management. What was the toughest part for
Yeah.
you to be a college athlete?
Um, I mean, time management is a huge one. Um, I would say it's just managing the long leash, the freedom, because you like, all right,
Oh.
you play sports, right? And I'm sure the coaches sat on your parents' couch and was like, yeah, Brandon's coming to our school. He's going to be a student athlete, right? And then day one, as soon as you show up for camp in like, what is it, August, September,
Yeah.
Brandon's an athlete student. Like, hey, just stay eligible. We need you on the field, right? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say that mindset shift, and like I didn't get the best grades in college,
Mm.
like, and reason being, like I don't use my degree for what I'm doing now. You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I would say just managing that long leash of freedom, because dude, there's nothing that's forcing you to go back to your dorm room and study versus like being out at a party or being over so and so's room, like just or playing Madden or Tekken 3. We played Tekken 3 till our eyes bled. Like, you could do that all night versus study. So just being able to go, okay, let me study for a couple hours and I can get back to gaming. That kind of tells you. And then like in retrospect, you start to think back and go, oh, okay, the guys that didn't finish their, the 4 or 5 years there, like on the team, they weren't doing that. Oh, let me go study first and then get back on the game. They just play games, and it's like, I like to look at other people's situations and not in a judgmental way, but like, how can I not end up like that? If I don't take those actions,
Mm.
there's a likely chance that I won't end up like that. So yeah, that long leash of freedom and not having somebody like a parent, over you saying, "Hey, do this, do that." Just the autonomous, like you could do what you want. So what are you going to do with that time?
Yeah, I would say my first semester was very much in that realm where I thought I could just do what I did in high school because high school was it wasn't easy, but I didn't have to study that hard. And I tried to
Yeah,
transpose that to my first semester. And then when it didn't work out that way and college was way harder, I was like, okay. And then my parents saw
yeah,
the grades and
yeah,
I'm like, it's time to lock in. I mean, they weren't awful, but like
yeah,
from that point forward, I was studying a ton for classes. I had to study
yeah.
way harder than I ever had to in my
Well,
entire life, I think.
biology,
And
that's a big bite of the
dude, it
apple to
was
take off, man.
it
Like,
was awful. Organic chemistry is the worst thing ever created on the
dude,
planet. And I
like
don't care.
every person I talk, yeah, every person I talk to is like organic chem. Like, I'm like, what are you guys talking about? Like, that's Chinese to me, but they all
It
like
was
had that look
horrible.
on their face, like the organic chem face.
Yeah, it was awful. And my teacher was originally from Boston, so everything was carbon and cause. So it was like
That
carbon was it was hilarious. I laughed every time.
Boston. Love it.
So moving on from the college football, the other thing you wrote in the form, which I thought was fascinating, is you visited 22 countries.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Is that post
Just imagine,
college?
yeah, post college.
Okay.
So imagine this, like South Dakota, right? The day after graduation, my car is packed. I had a 1999 Monte Carlo, cherry red.
Yes.
Had that thing packed to the brim with all of my belongings. This is the day after graduation, and I'm headed west. I'm going back to California to my parents' home, and it was 29 hours worth of driving. And
Whew.
when you're when you're by yourself for that long and there's no like podcasts out, at this is 2010, so podcasts weren't like in, audiobooks weren't really like a thing yet, so you kind of had
Yeah.
like CDs, and I had the big Bible of CDs, but you have a lot of time to talk to yourself and think and reflect,
Mm.
and have that moment of like, okay, you did 5 years of college, you didn't make it to the NFL, like, now what? Now who are you going to be? Now what are you going to be? And there's a couple, like, I would say, a decision I made for myself. One of the two. One was like I was going to either pick like, see as fast as I can get to getting 100 souls saved, meaning like lead people to Christ, like 100 people,
Yeah.
or read 100 books. Right. So I had to pick between the
Mm.
two. And I gave myself the time and the decision through that 29-hour drive to pick between getting 100 souls saved or reading 100 books. And I picked 100 books. Don't ask me why. I don't know why, but I picked 100 books. I felt like it was easier, right? So I told myself I'm going to read 100 books as fast as possible. And then when I got home, a couple of days later, the Amazon book started to roll in, and book
Mm.
after book after book after book.
How'd you
And
choose?
how did I choose? Such I could talk about this for hours. So each book leads you to the next book, and each book is right on time. So you could literally be sitting down watching, whether it's Fox, CNN, whatever, see somebody on there, you like what they say, you Google their name, they probably have a book, or they probably are in some type of group of where there's a book or a thought that they might have, and there's a
Yeah.
book in that thought. So guess what? You read that book, and what does every book do? It references other content, right? Another book, maybe
Mm.
not in that same series, but like one person, like Brandon, might have learned from that teacher from Boston, right? And that teacher from Boston might know a philosopher, Nietzsche, that he might read. So now I'm reading Nietzsche because I met Brandon. You have the teacher from Boston, he likes Nietzsche. So each book kind of spider
Dang.
webs and leads you to more and more books. And you'd be
Mm.
surprised how quick you get to the 100 books. Like I probably read I probably read 50 books that summer. Like just that, from leaving college end of April to like literally, yeah. And like I got a job, but I made it a point to like read 100 books as
Wow.
quick as possible. And through every book, what did it do? It literally like just uprooted all the stuff that like I wasn't really trying to do in my life, and it put in new stuff. Like I was learning about like real estate. I never knew anything about real estate. I learned about sales. I didn't know anything about sales. I'm reading like famous poems and stuff. Like, I from where I'm from, that's not a thing. You get what I'm saying? So it opened up my world to a lot. And then one thing my parents did, which is I swear I'm gonna do for every young kid that I can afford, is they bought a graduation trip for me, and the graduation trip was a tour through Europe. It was a 10-day tour through Europe,
Wow.
and literally like having paired, the little knowledge that I had through reading those books, and then also being overseas, and like you read a book on World War II, and you're literally in Amsterdam at the Anne Frank house looking out the window where you see the Germans at, and you read the book, and it's hitting home now. And
Wow.
so I would say travel is something that it always it makes you richer. Like it's something you spend money on that makes you richer. And I like having gone through all those countries, reading all those books, I'm like, man, this is it. I just want to read books and travel the rest of my life. So what does that do? You got to reverse engineer it, right? So how can you read books and travel all your life? But you got to make money, right? So
Yeah.
you can't have a normal job. Like at the time, I think I was working at like the county doing like in the mailroom. Like literally, I have a college degree, 4-year bachelor's, and like that was the only place. It was through a temp agency, through a buddy of mine's father at the church that I used to go to. Um, and I got a job at the county, and I'm working. And not to put anybody down, but like these people don't have degrees. Like
Mm.
it was just it was a humbling moment. And so I knew I couldn't have a normal job and read books and travel the rest of my life. So I knew I had to start a business. And that's where I kind of got on that entrepreneurial kick. And once you get on that kick, it's so hard to get off because the way you educate yourself and not trading time for money and like being able to own your own time and own your destiny and not having a ceiling to your income and all that, like once you get flooded and inundated with that, like it's so hard to go back. Like it's kind of like once your eyes are open, it's like ooh, it's tough. So yeah,
You
man,
can't
like
close
I
that door
literally,
again.
you can't. So I literally scratched and clawed for 2 years. After that county job, I got on with AT&T Uverse. I was a cable guy for 2 years, and that job helped me. Like it was cool because uh, like when you're doing cable install, like I'll go into your house, like, hey Brandon, I'm here to put in your cable. It's gonna take me about 2.5 hours. I'll be in and out all day. Make sure your dogs are stuck in a room, bro, because dogs
Yeah.
bite and all that. And like literally, I walk in your house and I'll you look around, right?
Yeah,
And
sure.
I could tell like the people with money, they have more books than TVs. I'm like, oh, that's another indicator of like, okay, how I
Wow.
want to live my life. Yeah, like literally, we got one TV in the back. I'm like, well, you guys live in a $4 million home, versus the person with the $200,000 home and they got five TVs and there's like two TVs in a room. So
Hmm.
I knew that like through having that job, it allowed me to have so many different conversations with people like Brandon, and I'd ask you,
Hmm.
so what do you do for work? And I'd start to pick up data on that, and then I start to have better and better questions and better conversations. Then I'm starting to do lunches with people that I met on the job who are like 10 times more wealthy than me, and I can learn from them. And that's where I got into owning my own business. I literally bought a business, seller finance, off a person who I was doing a cable install son, and they were trying to get out. They were tired of it. I had time and energy and a little bit of money, so I said, "Let's do it." So we did the deal, and that's where it allowed me to do the traveling and reading books while having a business and making money. And so that's where I was able to go to like Dubai and Japan and like Africa and all throughout Europe and like it literally like being able to travel in Iceland and like you wake up the next day and you might have two orders at like $800 and now you just hit a couple things on your computer and the orders get processed and like you made your money off of that. And so again, getting bit by that bug, being able to travel all those different countries, like it's man, it's a great. Now I'm married, I got kids now, so the traveling kind of stopped. But I can't wait till I can take my children to some of these countries to see some of these things, just to kind of open up their minds earlier than I did it than at 22 years old.
Holy crap, man. I had a couple questions around travel. Before I get into that though, there's a lot to unpack there. You said a lot of amazing things. The books versus TVs is so
Mm,
insightful. I don't know if I've ever So it's interesting, man. I just recently probably got into how important books are.
mm.
Um
Where are you at on the book journey? If and the question I'm asking is, when you pick up a book, are you picking it up to learn a specific thing, or are you picking it up to experience something to be able to take you in a different direction? If you get what I'm saying.
I'm picking it up to remove ignorances in my life.
Mm. Oh, yeah, solving a problem.
Um yeah, and what's interesting is we started a book club at my work, and it was really around keeping myself accountable. Sometimes to a book annoys me, and because I have so many
Mm.
hobbies that I don't stick to that. This doesn't allow me to. So now we have two book clubs, and I'm running both so that
Okay.
I'm reading multiple
Okay.
books at the same time. So I'm
Yeah.
forcing myself to
Look
do
at you,
this.
overachiever. Yeah.
Well, and it's that thing where it's not so much the actual action of reading the book, it's
Um,
reviewing it with your teammates. Dude, there's stuff like, it's so fascinating when you do that with a group of people where we'll read the same exact chapter, and at the beginning of this 30-minute meeting someone will say, I didn't get a lot out of that, and
uh,
by three people in they'll go, right? The light bulb goes
yeah.
off, and like
Yeah.
they totally didn't see. And it shows you the importance of
Uh,
perspective, right? And
oh.
diversity of thought and all of those things in one chapter, that it could be 5 pages long, but it's
Yeah.
everyone could
Yeah.
read it totally different.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. I mean, there's sometimes you're browsing through books and a title can jump out at you and change the way you see something. You don't have to read the book; it's just the title. And even like,
Yes.
and I agree with some of those guys like, oh, don't read 100 books, read the top 10 books 10 times. You get what I'm saying? And so like
Yes.
they say you don't need to read a whole bunch of books, just read the best books over and over. And I can agree with that because if I go back and read one of the 350 books that I've read, I'm a different person, and I will, like you said, perspective. I'll have a different perspective and looking at that same book 5, 6, 7 years later, which I probably should do, but I just keep picking up new ones, and time is limited now. But but I
Yeah.
wish I could go back and read all those books again just to see what other information I could get from it, because obviously it resonated to me before.
Yeah, so it's actually the depth, not the width, right? When you're talking about the books, it's not
Mm.
going wider with how many, it's actually going, because I'm the one book that I started reading in November that really changed my whole philosophy on books, because wasn't anti-book, I didn't get it. Like it didn't click for me. And
Yeah,
then it clicked for me when I read Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, because
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's really pocketed parts of my life that I'm awful with. And then my second book club we just started, I'm doing that same book with the next book club. So I'm going to be rereading it again, probably multiple times with the future book clubs while we're doing a new book with the original one. So that's going to give me that depth, because I notice there's pockets in there that is what I struggle with. As a social person going to networking events, some of those things I really struggle with. This podcast
Yeah.
hopefully helping that
Mm.
as well. And really trying to get in the depth of that. So yeah,
Yeah.
man, I didn't. Yeah, you said a lot of things there that really resonated with me just recently that have changed my view of book reading. And the other piece of that is I heard Cat Williams on Joe Rogan recently, and I know he's kind of
Yeah.
a hotspot from the Club Shay Shay, but when he was a
Yeah.
kid, he read like 80 books a week for like a
Yeah.
5 year
Yeah.
time period. You can
And
see it in his
that like
vocabulary.
and that's the thing, like, I can tell when, like, I'm off because I haven't read lately. Like, I can't find the
Wow.
words, or, I'm a little bit slower thinking. It's kind of like playing like soccer, right? My
Hmm.
wife played collegiate soccer. She's really good at what she did, but she hasn't played in a while. So you can kind of see when she juggles, like, she's, oh, okay. But like, it's never like, I'm sure if you went
Yeah.
out and juggle right now, we could
I'd be
tell that you
terrible.
played collegiate soccer. But like in deep down in your knower that you're better at what you just juggle. You get what I'm saying? It's the
Yeah.
same thing with reading. It's like it's an exercise that keeps the brain fresh, keeps that mind muscle going to help you stay sharp. And I can tell when I'm off my game because I haven't been reading. I'm like, oh, I got to start reading again, just so I can get my vocabulary back, get my enunciation back, and just kind of get back in that mode. So yeah, you're
Hmm.
right.
Yeah, that's really good. What made you disregard risk? Like being an entrepreneur, just diving into things. Like what made you a risk? Because I'm a pretty risk adverse person, and so it seems like you were just like, "Hey, opportunity, bang, let's go."
You know that I always knew that the worst case scenario, I could go back on my parents' couch. You get what I'm saying?
Mm.
Or even worse than that, like when I kind of like when I was grown, like 30, 29 years old, I knew that I could always find a place to crash at, and I knew that like I could go and get a job tomorrow if I needed one. Whether it's like the that they have the batch hiring at Walmart or Amazon, I can go and do that and then work my way up from there. So I always knew that like the bottom for me, like dude, I there's been plenty of times in my life where I had to decide between getting gas or getting food. You get what I'm saying? Like I got $12 to my name. Am I going to get gas or am I going to get food? And yes, my parents lived like 20 minutes away and I could go over there and get both. You get what I'm saying? But like, no, I'm
Yeah.
going to do this on my own. So, like, the bottom for me, it ain't that bad, man. Like, I've slept in my car before. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it ain't that bad. Like, you just, cover up the windows, be in a spot where nobody's going to mess with you. So, like, the bottom really isn't as bad as what most people think it is. Yeah, like, you ruin
Mm.
your credit. Yeah, you piss off a whole bunch of relationships. Yeah, it's kind of hard to get a girlfriend when you're like on the grind. Like, I get it. But like, I'd rather trade that for like being able to, again, like, I can I can pick up right now and go on a vacation and be like, it'd be a little tight because the business isn't really like I'm not a millionaire or anything, but I know that I have stuff in the pipeline where the year's not going to be ugly if I spend a little money right now. And then I
Yeah.
mean, another thing is I don't have to ask anybody. You get what I'm saying? Like, I had to make sure it's good with the wife. Like, hey, can you get some time off? Are the kids straight? Okay, let's take the kids. Let's go to this place. We're good to go. Like, there's, again, they call it unemployable. Like, when I first got into my own business, I didn't have to ask anybody to take time off. I would literally just walk in there and tell the employees, like, hey, I'm going to be out next week. So let's start working on our communications and systems this week, like better, as if I'm not going to be around, and we'll just communicate through GChat and emails, and we'll still be business as usual. You guys come in at the same time, you leave at the same time. And so once you once you start figuring out that, like, you don't have to ask people permission to do anything, like, it's contagious, like it's infectious. So yeah, the risk for me would be to stay in a job and always have a boss and be told what to do, and that's tough, man. And I've done it. I've done it.
Mm.
Like, and I'm a humble guy. Like, if I have to get a job tomorrow because something happened, like, I would do it, and I'll be happy, and I'll be a great employee. But if I have the the air in my lungs and the fire in my heart to be able to go out and do something on my own, then I'm gonna do it. But yeah, that to me, it's safer to have your own deal, because
Yeah.
I can have 500 customers and not one source of income, versus somebody with a job with one source of income and not, zero customers. So yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty inspiring, man. That's really good. And I'm with you. I've heard that recent saying quite a bit. I don't know what I've come across, but that whole it's way obviously it's less risky to be on your own and
Mm,
grinding yourself and
yeah.
putting and believing in your abilities to
Yeah.
find that next source of revenue or whatever that needs to look like.
And then, yeah, like, some people have to get it out their system. Like, I'm sure a lot of people who are listening to this want to do something. And you don't have to quit your job today, but you
No.
work from 8 to 5. Like, you probably got an hour lunch break. You probably have a 30-minute break or whatever. Start a business to where you can, like, prospect during that lunch break or after work, and then make another $300 a month. And once you make that $300 a month, you'll be like, man, I got this. Screw this job. I could triple this. And once you figure out, like, you can make your car payment, you can make your insurance payment, and like half your rent, like, you're never gonna work again.
Yeah. I think that's what the hobbies are for me. I think that's my freedom and my entrepreneurial itch. Like my YouTube channels, I think are that for me.
Yeah,
And because I never seen myself as a creative person, but once I kind of got hit by that bug, like I really dove in. And
yeah,
this is probably a worse bug than all of them so far. This is I think, my most fun content that I create, which I was surprised I
yeah.
didn't think it was going to be. But yeah, I don't know. It's very early, so we'll see if it's just a honeymoon phase. But I guess we'll figure it
Sure, sure.
out. With the traveling, so you mentioned some banger countries there. We went to Iceland last September and it was incredible. And you said you were
Yeah,
there as well. I mean,
yeah,
what a wonderful country.
yeah. They got it
It,
right in regards to travel. You know.
they are super safe,
Yeah.
completely
Yep.
self-sufficient.
Yep. Clean.
Everyone was
Yep.
fit.
Yep. Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was walking around there and everybody's got a beautiful car, super fit, tall, and
Yep.
like everyone
Yep.
seemed like they were
Yep.
happy and respectful. It was crazy.
Yeah. 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 And the thing that the Bureau of Tourism did was that if you flew through the Iceland Air, the couple of airlines that go through Iceland, they allow you to extend your layover for like as long as you want, no extra charge. So if you get there, you did a little free bus tour through the hot baths and like the dock
Yep.
there. If you say, hey, I want to stay here a couple nights, you just tell them and say, hey, I want to stay here a couple nights, and say, all right, we'll put you on the Tuesday. Like, no big deal. They get it right.
Yeah, no, they definitely became a hotspot for a layover over to Europe. And that's
Yep.
kind of what they were going
Yep.
for. And it's such a unique country.
Yep.
It's fascinating.
Smart.
Um,
Wow.
what were your top 3 places you visited?
Whew, top 3, of course, Paris. I mean, so much history. I like war. I mean, or war history, not war. I like war
Yeah,
history.
understood.
So just so like the French and all that. Paris is great. I wouldn't really consider myself a foodie, but I like to try different things.
Sure.
And so yeah, Paris served that. If I had money, I would have probably had more fun in Dubai. When I was traveling, I was doing the hostels and kind of like the budget travel, backpacking and stuff, which is great for a youngster. But like once you get above I'm 36 now, so it's like I don't want to be sleeping in a room with 8 other guys. It's like,
Yeah.
so it's just you got different tastes at different ages. But Dubai was fun. Japan, like it's super clean. One thing
Oh,
that was tough, nobody really spoke English. Nobody really cared to speak English. Great people, but like, hey, there's a black guy, whatever. Nobody really cared. And unlike
yeah.
when I was in India, which was kind of annoying, that like everybody came up to you, try to sell something to you. It's just overwhelming. Like I tell people, like India's that's a rough one for me to go back to.
Mm,
Yeah, I would say Paris. I had a lot of fun in Spain, Lisbon, or no, Portugal, and then Morocco. Morocco
really?
was one of those places that like, you kind of see it in the movies, and you always
Yeah.
see the little markets and stuff with all the spices, and you're like, I want to see that in real life, and that was pretty cool. Yeah, so those would probably be the three.
Okay, awesome. Is there anything you specifically love that comes to mind about travel? And is there anything specifically you can't stand about travel?
Um, the love. It's just that like when you open up Google Maps, right? And you like make it as big as possible, like you zoom all the way out and you see the world and you can literally flip and like 2 flips you go all the way around the world. And like when you when you travel, like one of those flicks is a place where you've been, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Like I flew all around the world. You get what I'm saying? Like there hasn't been like a hemisphere that I haven't been in, which is kind
Wow.
of surreal almost. Coming where I'm from, like so it's kind of surreal. Um, Seeing the different cultures, it makes me not really
Yeah.
complain about what's going on here. Like I'm from the Bay Area, we have a huge homeless problem in the Bay Area. But dude, I've been to India where like these people like don't even have tents. You get what I'm saying? Like, there's literally people just lined up on the streets. You get what I'm saying? And like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure it's a problem there too, but it does. I don't really complain that much about it. When in the same regard as most people. So yeah, just that perspective on seeing other cultures, um, meeting people on the road. I mean, is huge because I mean, there's so many people on that same journey, that journey of
Wow.
like
Yeah.
finding yourself, exploratory. So when two like minds meet up, it's like magic happens. Whether it's just
Yeah.
a 12-minute conversation, standing in line waiting for a train, or it could be like a 3-day fling with some chick you met from Australia. You get what I'm saying? Like those moments, like again, they build you as a human. So yeah, meeting people, new perspective on everything. And then the hate. You know, it's tough. Of course, just the little idiosyncrasies of being in a different country, not knowing the language.
Mm,
You go to the money machine and like you got to count out this weird money, and like I'm pretty sure I've been scammed more times than I like to think about. From like vendors and stuff. Uh, and then also like you can Google the crap out of where you're gonna go, and you can kind of plan it out, but you still don't really know until you get boots on the ground. Like there's been plenty of places where I think I'm getting a hotel or a hostel in a nice spot. You get there, you're like, whoa, like like
really?
they
Yeah.
Airbnb, they spice things up, and you get there like, oh, this ain't really what the ad said. But yeah, just little things like that. I mean, but there's not too much to hate about it because I think the type of person that is willing to do all that kind of traveling isn't the type of person that like is pissed off about somebody begging from you in a foreign language, or getting ripped off by 20 rupees at the deli, like stuff like that. So it's kind of like everything's happy go lucky.
Yeah. No, I think that's really good. I do think travel gives you a ton of perspective, especially when you do it and if you're able to do it quite often. I'm with you. I don't nearly get as annoyed about certain
Mm.
things, I think, in my day to day, or even when I am traveling. It's once you do it enough, you're like, this is just another day, right? It's just
Yeah.
part of the process.
For yeah.
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 Okay, that's great.
Uh,
Um, do you have a bucket list travel destination you haven't been to yet?
Whew. Um, so it's interesting. When I was in Africa, I was in Cape Town, South Africa, and they have safari tours. And
Mm,
so I knew that I wanted to share that moment with like my wife. And at the time we were kind of like not dating, but we knew we were going to be married together. Well, I knew I was going to marry her. so so I knew I wanted to save that moment because again, like when I see the Eiffel Tower for the 20th time, it'll be her first time seeing it. So it'd be like for her it's like, yeah, for me it's like
Yeah.
all right, where's the creeps at? I want some food, you know? Um, so I would say a safari is kind of like the bucket list thing to see the big five. I've been on the Nile River, which is like, again, being a Christian in the Bible, like the Nile is, that's it. That's the river, like the Nile. So like I've
Yeah,
been there, I've been on the river, like it's crazy. Seen the pyramids. Um, yeah, like I want to do Russia. I know Russia's they're going through some stuff right now, but I do
sure.
want to see some of Russia. It might sound kind of crass, but I don't really have that much interest in South America.
Hmm.
Like of course I'd want to see the Brazil Carnival, the Rio Carnival, and all that, but yeah, like I don't know. I, yeah, bucket list. I would probably say just the safari, like going to the
Awesome.
bush and seeing all the animals. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So I want to move on to Mount Kilimanjaro because
Mm.
I'm not sure I can wrap my head around when you put that on the form. It kind of blew my mind. So my first question is why?
Okay, so my girlfriend is now my wife right now, and then this other couple, we're hiking in the Sierras. We're in Nevada. We're hiking, we're back, we're no, we're doing I think it's like a 10-mile hike in the Sierras from like one leg of the PCT to the another leg of the PCT, and and I didn't know it at the time, but I had this condition called FIA. It's food associated exercise induced anaphylaxis. So
Wow.
there's a certain wheat protein. It's not gluten or celiac. It's a certain wheat protein that my body is allergic to when my heart rate gets raised. So I ate a sandwich, I had bread, started backpacking some more, started hiking. Next thing you know, I'm being helevacted out of the Sierras,
Holy
thirty
smokes.
thousand dollar helicopter bill, like craziness, right? Like it's us four on the mountain. I'm the navigator. Like I've done that leg before. Like I got the app and I know where to go, and I'm like, ugh. so that at that moment, and I'm like, I'm fit, I'm healthy. Like I've been to elevation before. Like I'm fine, but like you kind of just you played sports. I know you say you're risk averse, but I know you tried some stuff in your life. So you go, I gotta actually test it out and see if it was. And at the time, I didn't know what it was, so I thought it was just the elevation and like being out there. And I had some time and I had some money, which is usually a bad combination. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna go. It's either I'm gonna do the whole Pacific Crest Trail, right, where you
Okay.
go from Mexico to Canada. It takes about 4 months to do, and you hike it. Or I'm gonna do Mount Kilimanjaro because again, I sold the rental property that I had, and I had cash left over from it. I wasn't working at the time. My business, I had to shut it down because it was a whew, that's another 10-hour talk. It sunk the ship. Like the business, it dragged me under. Talking to bankruptcy attorneys, like it was getting ugly. So I'm like, all right,
Oof.
sold the house, had to get all the tax burden off my back. And I'm like, I got time, I got money. Either do the PCT, the through hike, or I'm gonna do Kilimanjaro. So I opted for Kilimanjaro. And again, it was me just kind of saying, okay, like I need to have a moment with myself that I'm like, I'm still a man. Like I still got this. Like I still can do. Like sometimes we all wake up and we're like, can I actually do? Can I actually be? Can I actually like
Yeah.
do and be the who I need to be? And so that's why Kilimanjaro, like for me, I needed to be able to conquer something. Like I
Hmm.
needed to be able to get back, in the batter's box, take another swing at something bigger, something a lot larger than myself that I can hit and say, okay, let me try to hit this out of the park. And that was Kilimanjaro. That was the why.
Can I
And
ask you a quick question
yeah,
on that? What
yeah.
was that a reaction to the business piece? To I'm
Oh,
not going to
100
use the word
100%.
failure. Okay.
Yeah. It was a business failure. Relationship failed too. And
Okay.
usually that happens when your business fails. Like
Hmm.
it. Yeah, you lose the money, you lose
Stress.
everything else, right? So it again, like it was a time in my life where I was trying to I wouldn't say find myself because I knew who I was, but again, I just didn't know if I could if I could
Yeah.
be. Um,
Good for you. Holy
yeah,
shit.
yeah, yeah. And that's why I threw it on the calendar, and I planned it out and I did it.
What was the training for that?
Um, good question. So they said it was supposed to be like the average, the most of the time people do a 7 day trip, meaning you do your 7 days to the summit, right? Because you go up, you go up, you go up, you come down to acclimatize, you go up again, you come down to acclimatize. It's 7 days. When I said, well, I don't have 7 days, I want to do it in 5. They're like, oh, you're crazy, but we could do it in 5 because they want the money. They're like, or whatever, just give us the money. um, so the training for that, I probably just did jogging around the neighborhood, right? I mean, I see guys like training for Everest. They go to like food lockers and they're running on treadmills and like freezing temperatures and like less air for oxygen. But everything I looked at, like, if and it was kind of humbling because you look at pictures and you see like overweight people like summiting. Like, Billy's 58 years old, looks like he smokes a pack a month, and he loves his pasta, but he's on the top of the mountain. So if he can do it, I can do it.
Okay. So
Right?
that was your
It's
mentality, was like, listen, I got
that.
this. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
I mean, I went to Cape Town before I went to Tanzania to hike it. So in Cape Town, they have like a couple little mountains you can hike, and I did those. And again, like, I'm doing those and still staying up all night and eating like crap. But those are kind of my like, okay, can I do this little hike thing that everybody's doing?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say the training was rigorous, but it was more so a mental thing. Like, mentally, I had to get through it.
So you're getting ready. So you had a plan of the 5 days. What does that look like on that first day? Like, walk me through those 5 days. And
Good question, man. First day, you meet up with the day before you meet up with the group. They go through your gear, which is kind of invasive. Like, they literally say, hey, give me all your gear, and they go, all right, you don't need this, you don't need that, take this out. Okay, this isn't gonna work when we get up to temperature. This is gonna be terrible. Like, you bring one of those camelbacks, right?
yeah,
And
sure.
they say, well, once you get to to freezing temperatures, which it was in April, and the mountain is pretty much frozen. There's literally snow on the ground, and they say it's gonna freeze. Like, so don't bring that. Bring water bottles and put them, like, in your jacket or in your coat, so they stay liquid. So stuff like that. They're going through your gear. They're making sure you're good to go. Then the next day is the day you go. So they come to the hotel. They pick me up. We probably get like a poncho and a couple other things on the way. And like, it's like a national park in the States, right? They got a sign, there's a parking lot, they got like, the trail from the parking lot is like super used and like kind of like, oh, this is it, like Kilimanjaro. And it's like a parking lot with this trail that's muddy and like a little goat fence, right? And they got like gazebos and fire pits and stuff, and I'm like, what is this? Is Kilimanjaro? There's a gazebo right there. So you hike past all that. And the first day, you're in the jungle, like a lot, like in the jungle. It's
Okay.
trees. I mean, I remember seeing the ants. Like, literally, the whole ground would be moving, and I'm like, "Oh, that's ants." They say, "Yeah, don't step in it." Of course, they step in it, and like the ants, what they do is they just, as quick as they can, they travel up. So they travel up your boot. Now they're in your pants. They're biting you in your crotch and stuff. You're literally slamming your. It's crazy. Like, you get bit on the thigh and go wham, 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 and you're like killing ants. Like, when you get to the room, you're like, oh, that was 4 ants I killed on the way. So you're in the jungle a lot. It's a lot of water moving, a lot of ants moving. Um, and then you get to camp, and like, they give you popcorn and they do dinner for you, and like the Sherpas, they like stay kind of away from camp, so you have your own spot. And I mean, you're dead tired. There's other people there, which is kind of interesting. There's like other people doing the same hike as you, uh, but you're dead tired, so you just want to go to sleep and do it again. And the next day is kind of the same thing. The third day, we're more in like the foothill area, meaning
Okay.
kind of like it's rocky. You're like, okay, this is elevation. Like, I'm starting to go uphill, like it's happening. First it's just kind of winding through a jungle, and then yeah, you start going uphill, and you start to feel it a little bit. And I remember it wasn't until the like the end of the third day where I could see the mountain. It was cloudy, so I couldn't see it,
Oh,
which is
wow.
kind of kind of sucked. But yeah, once the clouds broke for a little bit, like you're like, oh, that's it. Like it's way up there. Um, and then like it's interesting, you see like helipads on the way. And that's for
Really?
like people who have trouble. Yeah, people have trouble up there. They literally have to send a helicopter. And then they have like these gurneys. They have like a huge wheel on it. And that's like the gurney if somebody's having a problem or something. They got to get them out of there. And then yeah, the fourth day, I remember the fourth day we went to, and this is the day before the summit. So you summit in one day, which is pretty intense, pretty cool. So the fourth day we're at camp. You're literally at the bottom of like the peak, like you're literally looking, and it literally goes straight up. Um, and it was like a cabin there. It's like a couple of us in the cabin. You know, people are lightly talking. Everybody's from around the world, so you don't even speak the same language. And I remember, man, I don't know if I ate something or if it was an elevation, but I was just vomiting and diarrhea the whole night, like the
Oh,
whole night. And they're like, "Hey, man, we're gonna leave at 11 p.m. tonight, so we can catch the sunrise on the summit." And like 6 to 11, I'm like, just you know, both ends, like
you had to
crazy.
be
And
so
I'm like,
dehydrated. Oh,
oh man, I was shot, like red eyes. They're like, dude, you don't look good. I'm like, yeah, I don't feel good. And so they're like, hey man, get some sleep. We're gonna come back at 4 a.m. I'm like, all right. And like I'm literally just like barely getting out of the room to throw up, and like it's just crazy. Felt bad because they're like cleaning it up and saying this happens all the time. And I'm like, dude, you cleaning up my vomit. That's like not cool. Oh, and so yeah, like they came back in the middle of the night and they're like, "Hey, it's time to go." I'm like, "Okay." And so they're like, "Get here, get some food in you, get some electrolytes in you." And yeah, we started that hike, and it's so interesting because you could see people's headlights going up, and like
oh
that's where it was
wow.
like kind of surreal. Like you could literally see like a group up there, then another group up there, and they're like kind of crisp zigzagging going up, and and it was tough, man. I don't know what it was, but it was whooping my butt. Like I would literally take 2 steps and have to pause. You get what I'm saying? And just imagine
Yeah.
doing that for oh it it was supposed to take you 5.5, 6 hours. It probably took me 11 hours. You get what I'm
Holy
saying?
smokes.
Yeah, yeah. Like we're literally coming back down in the dark, which is not good. Like things are starting to freeze again. Like, you know, yeah, you start seeing headlights coming up. Like, ooh. So yeah, it was well no it yeah coming yeah we saw headlights coming up, but we're on the way down was like at a time where nobody's really supposed to be on the mountain. Um, and yeah, it was tough, man. I keep saying it was like the hardest thing in my life. Of course, like there are probably some conditioning days in football that were tougher, but
Yeah.
but like it was a mental thing. It was a mental, like mentally tough. Every 2 or 3 steps, I'm having to stop and like recollect myself, and then take another 3 steps, another 3 steps. And I remember getting because there's like a false summit. A false summit is all it is, like the top of the mountain, but it's not the highest peak. And so we get to the top that false summit. He's like, yeah, 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 we made it. And I'm like, dude, I know I don't look too good right now, but this isn't the top. Like, and he's like, no, no, we don't have the time. We took way too long to get here. Like, we got to go down. And I'm like, nah, bro, I'm not. Like, I didn't come all the way here just to make it here, not to like here.
Wow.
And the other summit, like, you had to kind of walk around the volcano, and it was like another 150 feet up. But I'm like, we got to do it. But it was like a mile and a half walk through the snow, which is kind of sucked. And so he's like, "No, man, we took too much time. It's gonna take us another 3 hours to get to the summit. Like we're running short on time." I'm like, "Hey, man, how much money do you need? Like, I'm not like I'm not going down."
You're
He
wheeling
was
and
like,
dealing on the
"Okay."
false summit.
Dude, I wasn't gonna be told no, man. Like, what does it look like? Hey, I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, but I didn't make it to the actual peak. So
That's
I'm
so
like, dude,
true.
how much money do you need? He's like, okay, we can go. And I was like, well, how much do you need? I'm like, man of my word. What do you, he's like, no, if you said, you offered money, that means you're serious. And I'm like, yes, I am serious. I wouldn't offer money. And so we walked over to the actual summit, took the picture, just kind of like looked around and started walking back down. It yeah, man, it was that was again that was one of the toughest things I've done in my life, just mentally, like
Yeah.
the amount of time on it, and then the amount of like energy you burn in doing that. Like that was tough, but yeah, man. And again, it was one of those things I needed to do just to kind of tell myself that like, yeah, I can actually be.
Did it check that box that you were looking for?
Um, yeah, yeah. I think in a certain way that like not too many people have done it. I know there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people have done it. Like Everest, like I guarantee you can go to a conference of like 2,000 people and like somebody's climbed Mount Everest. You get what I'm saying? So it's not like
Mm.
super rare, but it's something that not too many people have done. And like I could say I did it. Most people can do it. They just have to like put the money up to do it and have the physical fitness and mental fortitude to do it. So that like being able to have a win in that department of saying I've done what most people haven't done is pretty cool. And then also being able to tell myself that like, yo, that was pretty tough physically and you did it.
Yeah, man, what you did at the fall summit, because I mean, the night you had, most people would have gave up after that, right? When you're just, you got like
I could,
nothing.
yeah. Uh,
And
yeah, there
then
were
you're,
literally people there. Like there were
go
there were
ahead.
people at that in that cabin who were going through the same stuff, vomiting, diarrhea, and they were going to wait another day. And they're like, "Well, you can wait with that group. They're going to go up tomorrow because they're not feeling good." I'm like, "No, dude. Like, I wanted to spend my birthday, which was a couple days after, in Morocco." And so I was like, "No, we got to like do it now. Like, let's go." So, yeah, I had to.
And then the argument that you're having with, see, that's so opposite of what I would have done in that scenario. Cause I listened to people who were supposedly experts, which you were like, no, man, I didn't come this far. I'm telling
Yeah,
people I made it part way up Mount Kilimanjaro. That is fascinating.
yeah.
That's huge props, dude. Especially after the, I'm sure the hike up after feeling like trash. You know,
Oh man.
you push that envelope. That's amazing.
Like they say you do the skin test for dehydration. That was like the first time I did it, and it actually like showed that I was dehydrated. Like the skin like kind of stayed. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. I'm still gonna do it.
That's so
Yeah.
crazy. Was the most memorable part the summit for you, or what was the most memorable part of that whole thing?
Probably. Yeah. I mean, when we got to the summit, it was cloudy. It was kind of a snow flurry, so you couldn't really see much. Um, getting to the summit and only seeing like a couple footsteps from people that might have been there like maybe an hour before.
Yeah.
That was interesting because you look around and you don't see anybody. And in Kilimanjaro, you could take different paths to the summit. Um, yeah, that was it. Like it was kind of like virgin snow, and I was there by myself with my Sherpa, and that was pretty cool. Of course, we took the picture, and you know, that was pretty cool.
That's really cool. Wow, that's fascinating, dude. Um, did anything besides just it being probably more difficult than what you expected? Anything else surprise you about that?
Um, Probably how how strong the Serpas were, because like you literally bring your all your stuff like your sleeping bag, your pillow, like blanket, or like large coat, small coat, extra pair of pants, extra pair of shoes,
Yeah.
and so you have like a big duffel bag, and plus you have your day pack, right? And so like I would have my day pack on, but there literally be a guy in like some, he probably had an Arsenal jersey on, some joggers, cut off joggers and like some Vans, like literally some Vans, and he's carrying my bag like blowing past me. Like we would wake up, get up, they would mess around at the campsite, and then like about an hour into our hike, they'd be blowing past us, and I'm like, "Hey, that's my bag," because he's taking it to the next station. And just like how, like it's crazy. Like the guy who I subbed it with, he does that probably 2 to 3 times a month. You get what I'm saying? Like
Wow.
2 to 3 times a month, and I remember, and again, I had time, I had money at the time. So when I tipped them, like you all go back to this thing, they give you some plaque and like do a little shebang and all that. And so there's like, he was like, hey, we tip, like, you tip all the people. So there's like two guys that I saw all the way, always on the mountain. There's a guy I was with the whole time. He was like the most personable, knew the most English. And there's a couple other guys who were like cooks or whatever. And they were all at that place. I'm like, hey guys, I remember you guys. And so you just start tipping them out. And I remember sitting in the front seat and I had this like whole bunch of cash on me. I don't know what it was. Like it was the Tanzanian currency. And like I remember the night before, this is like the next day, the night before, I was trying to like calculate out like how much like they were supposed to be tipped because they kind of gave you a rough thing on the website, like how much you're supposed to get. And of course, I always like to make an impression to go a little bit like go a little bit more. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking like, okay, this is $20 US, like for all that he did, $20 US. Like
Wow.
I gotta at least give the guy $100 US, which is like changed their whole month probably. And I'm sure a lot of the travelers do the same thing, but like I can't just give a guy $20. Like I know if to him $20 US could probably pay rent for 3 months. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like for
Yeah.
me, it's not that much to me at the time, and I got to do more. And I remember like literally sitting in the front seat like a drug dealer, whole bunch of money in my hand, and I'm literally like passing it back, and I'm like, and I'm passing it back, and like I'm just handing it out, and I can kind of hear the silence, and they're like, wow, like they're like thankful, and I'm like, that was a pretty cool moment. Like I probably
Yeah.
made these guys summer, or whole year just off of I don't know being able to tip them more than they probably thought they deserved.
That's amazing, man. That's really cool. I'm sure that felt amazing. And like you said, gaining insight into what they just did for you. Like they were making sure you were
Yeah,
good. Like if something went down, like
yeah,
it was them.
yeah, yeah. No, they're reliable. Like stuff. Yeah, everything.
So I want to move into Vitendo. I'm saying that right, correct? Vitendo?
Yeah, Vitendo. Yeah, you got it.
So Vitendo Training Solutions is your company that you created, correct?
Yep.
And I have it as it's a public works training system, and you are the founder of that. Is
Hmm.
that correct? So
Yep.
tell me, how did this come about? Or exactly explain a little bit of exactly what it is you do with this, and then how did you come up with this idea?
Sure, sure. So first off, like in Tanzania, they speak Swahili, right? So I learned a lot of Swahili terms and where they kind of like, teach you words as you go, which is
Yeah,
pretty cool. Um and so I guess when I knew the concept and I wanted to come up with a name for the company, I had to, so I looked in the Swahili language and I found a word for repeated teaching or learning, and that's
yeah,
Vitendo, right? So like I'll explain the concept. If you ever been on YouTube and watched a video on how to operate or fix something you own, that's what I create for municipalities. Um, so rewind before Kilimanjaro, I remember talking to my mentor and like again, had time, had money, but I didn't really have direction. Like I didn't know what I was gonna do next. To be honest, I had enough time and money to like still be traveling. Like, for probably travel for a year or two. Like I was gonna go through Eastern Europe and like live on the cheap, probably go back to Southeast Asia and like do that, and just just kind of live off the land or whatever. But he told me, it's like, okay, well, the next job you get, instead of selling $7 t-shirts, sell a $700,000 piece of equipment, or make sure it's a bigger priced product with a more relational, because I'm better at relationships than
yeah,
transactions, more of a relational sales cycle. And that's where I started applying to companies that were in the public works space. And one of them was a truck dealer, and these trucks were like $600,000. And you sell them to cities, and they like flush the sewer lines underground, and they suck out like the catch basins. They're like the trucks that every city has. A lot of
yeah,
us don't really see them, and like street sweepers, like everybody knows the street sweeper. So my dealership was the dealership that sold the street sweepers to the city. And I remember going back and forth and going through the hiring process, and I said, hey, I'm gonna I'm looking at this job, I'm gonna start, like, I'm not sure about, and talking to the guy, like, I'm not sure if I'm ready to to come back to work yet, or to come to work. um and that's kind of where I when I was on the mountain, I figured out, okay, I can't just travel the rest of my life. That's that,
mm,
like, that always sounds fun in concept, but you can't. So I knew I was gonna have to take a job when I got back, and that's where I got that job. I was selling heavy equipment to cities, and I realized there was an issue, there was a gap, there was a a delta to where I would sell a piece of equipment, train everybody on everything. 2 months later, they forgot 80% of what I told them. And so
mm,
I started shooting selfie video of myself saying, here's how you operate this. Here's how you fix that. Here's how you troubleshoot this. Here's how you, service this. Here's how you stay safe around this. And the guys love the concept because again, when you buy something from IKEA, like the microphone you got, the lights in the background, your setup, you probably went on YouTube and Googled the crap out of it, watched all those exactly like everything on it, right? Why doesn't a city have this? Like, why doesn't every Airbnb come with a 10-minute video on like how to turn on this, how to operate this, if the water heater goes out, how does like everything should have a video on how
Yep.
to best operate it or fix it or make it. The pizza guy, he should have a video on how to make Louis pizza the best, because every summer he's going to hire some new kids. They don't know how to make his pizza. Just put the video in front of them and say, hey, follow this video and make the pizza. So that's where I got the concept from. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, the concept can work for anything, but I just love the public works side of things. I feel like those guys are out there doing stuff that keep the community going and nobody cares about. And I'm like, man, these people need more of a shine. And yeah, that's my happy place right now.
That's really good, man. It's so funny because I work in a metal manufacturing industrial company, and I'm the most mechanically deficient person on the planet. My dad can literally build anything, and I struggle with literally everything. So I
Yeah.
use exactly what you're talking about for almost everything in my life,
See?
because I'm not a figure it out guy. I don't like to tinker with things.
Mm,
I don't like things
mm.
that I can't figure out, and then I get super frustrated.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that concept is one. We should never say we don't know how to do anything anymore, because there's, like you said, there's probably a video for most
Yeah.
things that the general
Exactly.
public is going to need. And you're filling that gap for higher skilled things that need done
Yep.
around city works, utilities, and things like that.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
And they got a huge hiring problem, like everybody who's looking for
Yeah.
skilled labor. And
Dude,
so this fills a huge gap with that as well.
yeah, like the trades are getting whacked over the head because they can't find people to replace the boomers who are leaving the industry. Like there's so many cities I've been in contact with, and you say, hey, where's old Jimmy at? Oh, he retired. I'm like, well, dude, Jimmy knew everything. This young kid, Timmy, he doesn't know how to turn a wrench. Like, why couldn't you just interview Jimmy, get all the information out of his head, put it on some video, and then let Timmy watch it, so now he can at least kind of know his way around the city or around the truck. Yeah, again, any trade, like whether you're in HVAC, plumbing, like all these different niches, like there's so many people leaving the industry who have all that knowledge, and we need them to impart it on the next generation. And if you have a company that like you're in that, and like everybody who has a company in the space knows exactly what I'm talking about. But I get it. Most people think they can do video. It's kind of like podcasting. Most people think they can hop on a show and host, but like you're actually skilled at it. You actually got to do it and like try, So that's why I come in and say, hey, I will take the heavy lifting off your hand, do the video for you, put it in some software so everybody can watch it and then train themselves that way. So
You are capturing tribal knowledge.
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Bingo.
and that's a huge problem right now. It is a perfect niche for what, because you're absolutely right. It's a ton of industries right now that are having this problem.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say the hardest part, the where that I'm finding I wouldn't say the bottleneck, but just the the pressure against me is that I'm educating people on the problem that they know they have, but there's no real solution for it. Like there's no other companies. There's plenty of videographers out there. There's plenty of trainers out there. There's plenty of people that know that they have a training problem. There's plenty of people that know that they actually watch video on how to fix everything in their personal home or even on their business. But like I packaged it, but I have to educate the customer like, hey, we can actually get this done. It might take us 4 weeks, but we can get it done at a price, and then you're going to be good with it from there. Because again, once the video is shot, you can play that video 1,000 times for 1,000 new guys that you hire, instead of having that one guy having to train 1,000 guys, and maybe his 756 time he's having a bad day and doesn't give that guy the same training. And that guy has a safety issue, and he, now you got an insurance claim. So, video is repeatable. You can continue to watch it. It's the same way every time. Why not use video to train your new employees?
So do you feel the education piece is the hardest part of this for you? Is educating your why, even though they know the why, like you just said?
Yeah. No, like you're saying, they know they have the problem. I would say a lot of cities know they have the problem, but let's be honest, like there's no incentive to try something new. I mean, the paycheck's still going to come in. the city's still gonna get fed, or like the stuff's still gonna keep moving. So why do business with this Joseph guy who's got this new innovative idea, which is really a bare bones concept? Like the concept is old as day, sitting around the campfire talking about how to hunt buffalo, like changing their mindset. Literally changing their mindset from going, oh, that is a cool idea, to saying, okay, let's get it done. That's the hardest part. And sometimes I think, like, is it just me? Like, am I coming off too abrasive, too passionate? Like everybody says, man, that's such a great idea. Like, yeah, well, I'm not a billionaire yet, so
Mm.
so it's an uphill battle of just trying to change the culture, change the way things are going. There's plenty of niches that need it. I know once the growth comes, I'll be able to branch into other different verticals and then start to go in from there. I mean, I was at Crumble Cookies, right? Everybody loves Crumble. What do? They have an iPad on the wall, and there's a video that keeps looping that says, "Here's how you make the cream cheese cookie." You put the cream cheese on, you put the topping on, and then boom, you heat it up, and you're good to go. Like, why doesn't every company have that for their employees? So,
It's quality assurance.
yeah. Yeah. I talked to an insurance guy, and he was like, hey, when these companies have an incident and they come back to us and say, why is my premium so high? And they say, well, you didn't do anything to make sure there's no more accidents. And so I tell companies, I'm like, well, if you got 400 videos shot on how to do everything and how to stay safe around everything, I'm sure your insurance company will go, oh, they're actually trying to correct their wrongs now. Like, let's give them some action.
Yeah. I'm thinking of just from a safety perspective, from that side of things. Yeah. No, I mean it's every. I mean it's almost every part. And with the way video creation now is, and the accessibility of
Yeah.
doing it on your phone,
Yeah.
the problem
Yeah.
is make it succinct, editing it to understand. All of the audio and everything. That's something most people don't want to learn or may not know right out
Yeah.
of the gate. And that piece of it is you're taking that headache out, because it is a bit of a headache to
Yep.
learn all of that stuff.
Yeah, there's so many guys, like I call it feeding the fish. I'll tell them, like, I just fed the fish. I'll do a demo for a company or a city, and you can tell there's one guy in the back that says, oh, we could do this on ourselves. You get what I'm saying? And I'm like, okay, here we got a live one, right? And I explain to him, I say, okay, video has been democratized since like 2012, 2013. You can get a DSLR for $2,000 and shoot video that ends up on TV, like on Fox. You get what I'm saying? Or shoot a movie that ends up in the theater with a DSLR, $2,000. And I say, well, why haven't you done it? Not to be like a jerk or a dick or anything, but why haven't you done it? And I get it, because that 0 to 1 of doing video is tough. Once you figure it out, it's not that hard. But like, again, your job or these people's jobs is to like do marketing or do training. Like, their job isn't to do video. And I say the reason why, I mean, we can make Chipotle, like me and you, we can get some steak, we can get some rice, get some cilantro, get some queso, get some cheese, and we can make a Chipotle burrito bowl with the same seasonings that make it the same exact way. Or we could spend $22, which the prices keep going up, probably $30 now, and we both can get burrito bowls on our own. And 10 minutes later, we're satiated instead of having to spend all this time finding the ingredients and putting it all together. And that's what I pretty much explained to him. Like, yes, you can do it on your own. A, you haven't yet, and that's a tell right there. And B, why would you do something you're not highly competent at and waste time and effort and energy on it when you could just pay somebody a nominal fee and you have it done for you?
Well, and also the piece of it is the training has to be good that people want to watch it over
Oh,
and
yeah,
over. And right. So
yeah,
it's not
yeah,
just
yeah,
putting a camera in someone's face. It's having a script. It's thinking about when, where, how you want it laid out,
yep.
because it could potentially train hundreds of people on how to do a
Yeah.
specific item.
Yeah, like how many trainings are in, like a manufacturing company that are from the 90s, It's Billy Bob, and he's the manufacturer guy, and it's like a pristine environment which nobody ever works in. And it's like the piece of equipment has never been touched, it's brand new, and it's like music which sounds like, 90s porno music, not that I would know, but it's like it's stuff that that like people don't resonate with. I'm like, I
Yes.
come out and shoot your video of your employees with your equipment in your dirt or in your water. Because the guy sitting in that morning rodeo, he sees the guy sitting next to him on that screen. It's going to hit harder than seeing some random guy from Boston talking about water. It
Yeah.
doesn't resonate the same.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know how similar public utilities would be city to city, but even if the cities would have a conversation about, if it's a cost thing, everything's a cost thing probably from a city
Yeah.
perspective because it's
Yeah.
all tax, right? But
Yep.
if you could use the same training video across, if you have similar utility works and they work in similar fashions, could you even do that across cities?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of cities will say, "Hey, what kind of videos do you have in regards to this and that?" And like right now, and between me, you, and a fly on the wall, I tell them I don't do canned videos because I
Mm,
can, because it commands, it's custom now, which means it makes more sense to them.
yeah.
But 5 years from now, I'll probably go back to all of them and say, "Hey, can I use all these videos as an open source to make the public works YouTube? Every single how-to, operation, maintenance, best practice, thousands and thousands of video will be on the Vitendo YouTube channel or the Vitendo channel, where you can learn anything on any piece of equipment in any type of application that you will want to know just by going to this, paying $2 a month for." So yeah, right now I try to stay away from canned videos, but in the future, I do think there's a play for having thousands and thousands of how-to videos for everybody to learn in that one spot.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there. I mean, it's true green stick content where if it's similar utilities with similar practices, you could use it over and over again.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Well, that's really good. What so being a founder, how hard or fun has that been?
That's worse than climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, man. Well, it's like I'm from the Bay Area. Again, that's where like all the tech bubble, the Googles and the Facebooks and all the startups are at. So like it's kind of sexy, right? Oh, you're a
Mm,
founder, this and that. Even if you don't make any money, you're still a founder. You're like, oh, you're going to networking events and you're talking about this and that. You're a founder, right? But like once you get married and have kids, it's like nobody cares, man. Like how much money did you make, yesterday or the month before or the year before? Like that's what matters. So like when I say as hard as climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, when the business isn't doing well, that's the hardest part. I always say my biggest sell is not selling like, the city of Oakland or the city of Cleveland, Ohio, or the city of Houston, Texas, like getting those deals in. My biggest sell is just selling my wife on giving me time. You get what I'm saying?
mm,
Unlike keeping, the family, friends, and the in-laws all from saying, is Joseph gonna make it? Is he gonna be okay? Like, is this business thing he's trying gonna work out? Is he gonna be like 80% of businesses that close in the first 2 years? You get what I'm saying? Like, that's
yeah.
the hard part. Like, again, I can sleep in my car. I can always go like sleep on my brother's couch, or like, I can get $1,000 from my guy Brock in Florida if I needed it. You get what I'm saying? Like, I, there's like, but I don't want to, and I don't want to have to, but I want to have a family and do that, but still be able to work on my business being a founder. So yeah, like being a founder is sexy and all that, but at the end of the day, you're still an operator, and
Mm,
you still gotta make money. You know.
yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I didn't get to talk to my father-in-law who started the company where I'm working very much about it,
Okay.
in depth, but you could see the weight. You could see the weight of that,
Mm.
right? And then,
Oh.
I
Yeah.
remember asking him 2 years before he passed, like, if you could do it all over again, would you? Or what would you change? And he said, I wouldn't hire my first employee. And so that was really telling of the stress that comes
Yeah.
with the people,
Yeah.
right? As you scale things, it
Oh.
really, it really adds
Oh.
the stress to it.
Yeah. I haven't made my first hire in this company, but in my last business, I had 5 employees at one time, and yes, there's plenty of moments where it's like, and again, I'm not like a tough guy. I'm not confrontational. Like I'll let things slide. Like for sure, I'll let things slide. But there's plenty of moments where I'm like, man, I should have put my foot down, or I should
Mm,
have, addressed this, or I should have nipped this in the butt. Um, not and mainly not doing it just to make the workplace a fun place and a place where they like coming. But again, if we think about it, the personal trainer that we like gets us results. And how do you get results? They hold you accountable. So yeah, like if once I start making hires for Vitendo, like you'll probably see a different face, but Yeah. Whew. I'm sure your father-in-law had plenty of stories, man.
Yeah, yeah, I'm a huge believer in flexibility and accountability can coexist, but you need a lot of data to do
Mm,
that. And I think that's
yeah,
that can be a tough spot for people because if you're not a data centric person, I feel like it's really hard to get insight from it.
yeah,
Luckily, I grew up in Excel. I'm sure, during your time period, I mean, Excel's huge in college, so we just had to learn it because that
yeah.
was kind of the generation we're in. So, okay, that's cool. Um, what advice would you give a new founder?
I would say 95-5. 95-5 meaning focus 90% of your time, effort, and energy finding customers. And 5% on like taxes and forming your LLC and all that stuff. Like again, you're having money problems because you don't have enough money. Like all of my problems are because I don't have enough money. It's not a money problem. It's a problem because I don't have enough money. You get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
so there's so many people I meet and they're like, oh, I got to get business cards before I start. Or I got to get it, t-shirts, or I got to talk to a guy and pay him $400 so he can form my LLC. I'm like, no, find 8 customers first. Make your first $1,000 a month first. You know, talk to 20 people face to face. I always say enough broke people don't take enough rich people out to lunch. So figure out a way to get in front of 20 people, and 5 of those could be people who are like gonna vet, like say, hey, I want to pitch something to you. Give me your feedback. What do you think? Take those first 5 lunches. Take them for coffee. It's cheaper, right? I've done that. Like I've definitely had to make those decisions. So take those first 5 people to coffee, ask them those questions, get the feedback, and the next 15 people should be people, not family and friends. Stay away from. And that's why I hate about pyramid schemes and MLMs. Don't go family and friends first. Go to strangers. Trust me, strangers will give you good advice. Advice meaning a no, right? So go to 15 strangers next and try to sell them on your product. And literally 15 people in your face and ask them, would you buy my product? Or explain it to them, try to pitch it to them, try different closing techniques, try different ways to rebut their objections. Like try all these things and then see why you still have a day job. You get what I'm saying? Like you don't need to
yes.
just cut, and start it, but like do these things while you have a day job. Try to sell as many people as possible. Focus 95% of your time on attaining new customers. I'm a firm believer that money follows attention. Like, again, you and I don't know each other. I saw you had a podcast. It was pretty interesting that I saw that you had a link to where people can hop on your show. I am so surprised that you're not booked all day, every day for entrepreneurs or founders trying to get on your show. Because again, like let's say your podcast gets 20 downloads. That's okay. I can still take the podcast, which you're probably going to give me the raw files. I can chop
Mhm.
it up and I can throw this thing all the way on the mountaintops and like scream it and put it on everything and say I was interviewed by the Be It podcast, and now this is me, because it's so much cooler when somebody's interviewing you versus when you're just talking head. So money follows attention. Try to get as much attention as possible. Focus 95% of your time finding customers and not worrying about the back end and how to save money and all that.
Yeah, that's a really good one because I think as I was figuring YouTube out the very first time, and the big thing that people always tell you is just start making videos, right? But I think everybody that
Mm.
worries about setup, they're worried about what camera
Yeah.
they're getting, they worry about everything else and I think on the
Yeah.
sales side, you're right because the rejection piece is what everybody's so afraid of. So
Yeah.
what you're
Yeah.
saying going and do is actually going to be the hardest thing for most people.
Dude, it's the hardest thing. Like it's how hard it is for somebody who's not really extroverted. I wasn't really extrovert, but I knew in order to like make money and do what I wanted to do in life, I kind of had to be. So I had to develop a pace and a tempo and an energy that says, "Hey, I want to talk to you. You should talk to me." So I think that, yeah, like you said, the going out talking to customers, being that guy that's willing to say, "Okay, even if I get egg on my face today, I'm still going to try again tomorrow." I mean, even on Instagram, like you can literally DM 10 people a day for 30 days. That's 300 people you DM'd about your product or your service. You get what I'm saying? 300, 10 people a day. It takes 8 minutes. Just copy and paste it. Copy and paste it. Hey, my name is so and so. I do, I do ankle massages and ear massages. Would you want to pay $28 for me to come and do your ankle and ear massage? See what they say.
Yep.
And whatever feedback you get, you start putting that in your pitch. Oh, I'm too far from your house. Well, I'll come to you. Or I don't like my ankle and ear massage. I want my neck and my nose massage. Okay, I do that too. Like again, you start picking up feedback. You'll never know until you get in front of potential paying customers and they give you feedback. So yeah.
Everybody on LinkedIn right now is screaming at you, Joseph, because they're just seeing how can I add value? How can we add value to each other in
Yeah.
the DMs?
Oh man, I think you posted that. Like, how can I add value? And it's like, I get it, like that, and that's a pitch. Like, granted, most of it's a bot, and like they're not really being too intentional. But again, that pace of there's people that respond to that. You know what I'm saying? Like we might not, but there's people because it works. It's like you see bandit signs on the side of the road, and like those signs are there because they work. People don't do things if they don't work. Like that stuff works. Like the Indian guy who hops in your DM and say, "Hey, I want to sell you a beachfront property in Africa." Like that stuff works.
Yeah,
that's why they keep doing it.
That's amazing. What advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
20-year-old self, I would say. Let's see where I was at. I was still in college at 20. I probably started like my personal development journey at 21, 22. I would say kind of like what I was saying is start talking to people. Find an industry or a small business. Like it could be a plumber, it could be a painter. Just say, hey man, like I'll do your business development for you. Just tell me a couple things to say. Give me like a couple houses to knock on a day, and I'll go do it for you. If you make some money off it, just give me 20%. Things like that to cut your teeth in that, like we talked about, that sales, that going out and talking to strangers. If I would have got to that earlier, it would have helped out more. Again, being the book reader, you get spend so much time in books, you don't talk to people. And that's kind of like the negative side of it. You get what like I'm reading books at coffee shops, and really I should be looking around saying, hey, there's 18 people in here, like every hour. Like I can at least talk to 2 and see if they want to, like, whether it's go on a date with me or like buy my product or whatever. Like, yeah, or talk to them about anything. Just develop that muscle of talking to people. So I think I would start at that quicker. I think at 20 years old, I was too cool. I didn't have that that I wouldn't say intensity, but just that urgency. I was playing football in college. I'm doing better than most people I know.
Sure.
No big deal. I'm chilling, man. I'm in college. I'm playing football, like living the dream. I think there should have been a sense of like, yo, I need to actually start to build out who I want to be in life.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I think I look back at that time period and I was just such an idiot. And but I mean, we all are, right? We were all ignorant way back then. Thank goodness we get a little bit less ignorant every day. That's all we can kind of hope for. That's really good. So this was amazing. Is there anything that you want to, we talked about Vitendo. Is there anything you want to promote outside of that? You want to hit that again? Is there anything you want to promote overall?
Not necessarily. No, we talked about Vitendo. That's solid, man. I mean, thanks for letting me speak on that. I would advise people to, pick up a book, start traveling, stop beating off. That usually helps a lot of men. Hey, it's funny. We've all been there, man. Trust me. Like when you can tell yourself no and tell your fleshly man no, like you'd be surprised where your life can go. It's a funny subject. I get it. I get chuckles every time I talk about a speaker from stage sometimes. But yeah, like when you can tell yourself no, like the hardest person to argue, debate, beat is yourself. And once you can conquer yourself, man, you become a bad man. And there's been periods of my life where I've, you relapse and it shows. And there's been periods of life where I've been strong with it, and the whole not doing that thing, and like it shows. So yeah. And I, kind of the same for women is like, take Instagram off your phone on weekends. Or throughout the week, like just delete the app. You don't have to close your account, do anything like that, but just stop scrolling for 40% of your life. And you'd be surprised how much that can send your life in a different direction. Yeah.
You are a fascinating individual, man. Once again, being the first person I don't know, this was It was interesting. I was going into this and I wanted to do some research, but I didn't want to do too much because I wanted to make sure I wanted to
Yeah,
come at it like
been
an
there.
audience member because I don't know you. So it was really fascinating to me to go through this journey, and questions were just bouncing off my head. I mean, I probably could talk to you easily for another 3 hours about all of the things that you said so far, but thank you once again for taking a chance and
Thanks for
reaching out
having me
and
on.
putting in the form. I appreciate you saying more people. This is an adventure for me, and we talked a little bit about that. Talking to people. One, not only for just I love hearing about people and how they kind of got to where they are. So I really appreciate that. And yeah, this was amazing. Thank you again for doing this. And
For sure.
um,
For sure.
I have a lot to think about with video involvement. So we will be having a conversation. I'm actually going down that road with our culture piece in our company. And I'm using video
Uh,
actually that I'm going to talk
uh,
about the behaviors we want and use because now I'm
there you
comfortable with
go.
video. It kind of changed my approach to that.
Look at you now, yeah. And it's fun. Like I was gonna commend you on starting a podcast. There's been so like they said the number is like at 11. We're 90% of podcasts don't make it to episode 11. You get what I'm saying? And
Ooh, okay.
yeah, and like I've started two other podcasts like throughout the years, and guess what? They all stopped at like 8, 9. I would have interviews and like, oh, this is a new podcast, and I get 8, 9 guests, and like it would fizzle out, right? I do a public works podcast. I'm at 274 episodes, man.
Dang,
So
dude.
like I literally commend you for starting one and doing it. It's a labor of love. Like I still don't make any money off my podcast, even though I kind of use it for biz development,
Yeah.
but yeah, thank you for starting one. I feel like there's never enough podcasts out there because again, somebody will get something from your show, and there will be
Mm.
some point in your life where they'll tell you, "Hey, man, I learned this from listening to one of your episodes," and that will do so much for you. And like it'll make your life feel complete at that moment. So yeah, thank you for starting it. Thank you for being diligent enough to keep up with it and keep it going, man. I'm looking forward to coming back for your 100th episode,
Yeah, man. Thank you for that. Actually,
man.
last week I had two of my coworkers on as well to talk about their passions and hobbies, which is really going to be a huge benefit to people at work too, because they're going to see a side of those
Mm,
people that they never got to see,
there
and
you go.
I love
Yeah.
that piece of that as well. I didn't think I'd love it as much as I am, so I'm hoping it's once again. I hope it's not honeymoon phase, and I will. I'll tell you what. I'm looking forward to number 12 now. You put the gauntlet down. That's
So
brilliant.
yeah, at 11, that's that magic number.
Yeah. Well, once again, thank you so much, and this was amazing. I appreciate it so much.
For sure. Thank you.